Hey peasants, today I am playing the Sherman Firefly on request. Clearly you guys just really want to make me suffer if you're picking all these vehicles. I didn't get on with the Firefly very well when I first played through it, but I've come to be a bit more comfortable with it in the past few months. Anyhow, I'll talk more about all that at the end, as usual, onto the gameplay. Here you can see I am on Abandoned Factory. It's a bottom tier game against Russia, fairly small teams. I don't know why, but every single game I played in the day that I recorded this one was small teams. I don't know what was going on with it. But I can see in my third person camera and in binoculars there is an ASU-57 down the bottom here. So I'm just taking some shots there using binoculars. Not really aiming for anything specific, just making sure I hit. Now, it's a single cap, it's Conquest version. We are down at the south here. I have chosen to play on the waterline. The Firefly, while it's got a good gun for its BR, it's a very tall tank, very large profile to shoot at, and its armour isn't going to make a slightest bit of difference at this BR. So I'm generally wanting to play on the sides, get around the rear if I can. I would call it a flanking tank, but it's just not really got the speed to be a proper flanker. It still needs to try and flank where possible, I think. But yeah, it's not really cut out for it. It's why I find it to be an awkward tank. It doesn't really have a niche. It's not really a hold down tank as it doesn't have any gun depression. So I don't really think there's any specific way that you can play it, but I am trying to play around the side here where I'm less likely to get shot. I'm not massively around the side, but I am at least out of the initial gun sights of enemies. Now, by the looks of the minimap at this stage, all the enemies were pushing straight through the middle of the map as one big cluster. Not really anything coming to the A point, but then our team isn't really pressing any advantage here either. You can see we're losing players quite quickly. Here comes an S100Y. Shot into the side of him there and got, well, the side of his breech. Took out the breech, the gunner. It's a good quick reload on the Firefly. So knock out his driver and then finish him off. Compared to the Avenger, which is the same BR, the Firefly does have worse gun depression, it does have worse speed, it's slightly taller. Neither of them have really got any armour that will bounce anything, but the Firefly does get a slightly better reload and a better turret traverse. I'm not sure quite why it's got a better reload given that it's a smaller turret, but never mind. So, they've now got a tank on cap. I don't really want to push it as fast as possible. I need to check the area first. I figured he'd try and drive off the cap once taking it, so I'm just looking for a side shot here, but he's not coming. So obviously I need to go and get around behind him. He's the only tank I know the location of, but I do need to be careful about it. We are losing players all over the map. Considering how small the team was at the beginning, it's now probably half the players already gone. It's good evidence of how poor the matchmaker performs lately, is this game, as we don't really have much past the 4.7 mark, whereas almost the entire team of the enemy is 5.7. It's off 5.3 at the very least. There's several T-34-85s, some IS-1s, some KB-85s floating around. Now, I did not see that tank initially. I had no idea he was there. He shot a bit far back and hit my engine. My shot was even worse placed and it only hit his fuel, but there we go. I've got a faster reload than him. I got his loader, put the fire out, and just aim up. He's not going to be able to fire before I do, so there we go. That's a D5T mod, so that's 5.3 tank there. He didn't cap, so I know there's at least one more player around very close to me. I can see a few players getting marked up on the other side of the camp, but I've got no line of sight from here. Just double check around the corner before I expose myself. Go looking. I'm pretty sure it was a 34-57 who capped. but can't see him around, and there is nothing on the cap. Ideally I need to defend that Churchill. He's got a KV pushing in front of him there. Or is it an IS? I think it was a KV-85. That did penetrate his turret. As you can see, the spall actually did go in. It just caused no damage. There we go. Take out his last crew member. Finish him off. It was a KV-85. And now let's... I know there's something shooting in the Churchill in the back. So let's try and get around and see if I can defend him. A little too late. T-34 is just slipping away, and they've got someone else on the cap. But there we are. The 17-pounder works great for going end to end on a tank. It will easily penetrate and continue all the way through. Whoever's on the cap here isn't advancing. Got his transmission. Was hoping to just set him on fire and kill him via that, but unfortunately couldn't seem to start a fire on this angle. Only taking out the transmission, and repeatedly hitting that isn't going to cause any more damage, so need to move on. Now the Avenger there getting hit, so I know there's something else around, and someone just took out my engine and set me on fire again. Enemy shot placement worse than mine right now. Whip around, get his loader again, put the fire out. The Avenger finished him off. I am now stuck here though without an engine. And I know there is that tank who capped A. Here he comes. Don't know quite what he aimed at there. Trying to see if I can create some smoke, blind him a little bit. Here he comes. Now I just hit the side there instead of the upper plate. It was a slightly poor shot from me, and he set me on fire again. If I'd hit that shot I would have survived. As there we go, I just killed him with the next one where I intended to place it. But no FPE, I'm going down. 6 kills, not great play from me. The kills, you know, are one thing, but I was a bit slow on the push there. Anyhow, game 2, Sinai. Much longer range map, more suited to the 17-pounder. I've come around on the east flank. I always play the east flank virtually. There you go, just shoot down. It's already injured crew on the F2 there from people who got here before me. Firefly not the nippiest tank around. Now, the reason I tend to play on this east flank is it's higher ground. It means I can see more of the map. I can see over some rocks. I can see over the buildings. So I prefer to be on high ground whenever I can, even though my gun depression isn't spectacular on this tank. It just gives me more opportunities. Does mean I'm also more of a target, but you never know. Now, shots weren't best there with my tank on a heavy angle like that. It was making it a little more difficult to land the shots. So, Panzer IV Cabin B, there we go. Ammo rack. 17-pounders, probably a good 50-50 chance on the ammo. I thought this guy was a little closer. Seemed to be just behind the ridge, so I thought he was closer to this side of the B cap. It turns out he's behind another ridge on the other side of the point. It's kind of a ripple on the point there, so first shot was bad. Now he's desperately driving around, but he's just noticed there's a Churchill 7 advancing in front of him, so he's trying to run. Surprised no one took out his engine on the way. There we go, I've hit it. He's not going anywhere. Little low on the shot there. Should have had him, should have finished him. There was a Yank Panzer IV out where that Cromwell is on the C point. But I've no line of sight at the moment, so trying to find out what is preventing the ACAT from being taken. Just see him there behind the building. And again, ammo rack. Firing just below the turret on when it's a side shot on a Panzer IV like that, or on most tanks really, is usually guaranteed to take out the gunner. and a good chance of going through the ammo rack as well, depending on how much they're carrying. It's easily the safest shot to take when trying to take out a tank at this tier, below the turret. So moving up further, and just see that Jagdpanzer 4 heading towards B from C. Line up, roughly. Let's work out the range, and there we go. Straight through the middle. Even at long range, the 17 pounder's got a real punch to it. Good high penetration. It is to make up for obviously the solid shot aspect. And in terms of the Firefly, it's the Sherman's armor just really doesn't hold up anymore at 4.7. Didn't see anything for a few more minutes, and I've pushed all the way up the flank. I am now sniping into their spawn. It's a little scummy, but at this stage of the game I think there was only 4 enemies left, and 2 of them are in planes. So they've pretty much lost the ground now, and it's just getting rid of the last few players and making the game end quicker. Nothing tremendous with the shot placements at this stage, so no real reason to keep this game going. Going for the side of this capture T-34. Starting to roll back on the hill, so throwing off my shots a little bit. I should really have aimed better anyway. Certainly not my best placement. But again, just shooting into spawn points here while we wait for these last few guys to run out of respawns. And final one. A little Panzer 3M. Through his side, 3 crew in the turret drive. Just struck at an awkward angle there. Although, did end up penetrating, but the spore failed to kill the gunner. I would have still expected the shell itself to continue in and kill him. There's no reason the shell should have stopped existing at that stage. But sometimes solid shots can let you down. So, game 3. Port Silly again, as I like to call it. And I'm going to do what I usually do with a tank that doesn't have the speed to reach the C point, or the armor to get into a good defensive position there. I'm just trying to take out anyone who is crossing the bridge. I just saw something was firing there from behind the broken wall.
Roger that. Allied forces have captured a zone.
So NATO, there's 3 of his crew down. Just make sure I get his engine or his driver so we can't get away. There we go. Finish him off. Can't see anyone else from here at the moment, although there is something firing on the other side of this train. So I'm trying to take guess shots really. He's unlikely to shoot back. It is a risk though, because if I can see, well, I can't see him, but if I can see where he is in binoculars, then he can see where I am in binoculars, most likely. Not always. It depends on sort of the placement of that obstacle and how far between it is. He is behind a rock, that's why I couldn't hit him, and I was firing a little too low, but there we go. Shoot through, finish him off. There's at least one more thing trying to snipe over the water, so the last thing I want to do is drive along the beach. Let's reposition and head back into the town and help cover the sea point.
We have taken the initiative.
Just in case people don't realise, because sometimes you never know the amount of players who drive that way and die. So reloading to smoke, as I have in previous games managed to find myself getting shot when crossing this road ahead. I'm sure there'll be something else over the water shooting, and I don't want to fall victim to it. So smoke up the gap. Just cross over. Smoke's clearing just a little earlier than I'd want, but I can see a marder in third person. Oh, not third person, sorry, binoculars over the top of the train. So line it up with binoculars, take the shot. And there we go. Now, this is where I would recommend most of the players on this map head to at the start of the game. If you aren't fast enough to get C, or you don't have a decent sniper gun, I would say come to this road and prevent anyone from reaching the C cap. See, there's an enemy captured Churchill trying to press out there. Shell just clipped the edge of the wall. So there goes his turret crew. Just missed his ammo rack. Let's get his engine. He's not going to make it to the point now. Has disappeared and stopped being rendered for me, which was rather odd, but I know he's clearly not going anywhere. So I'll just keep taking shots here. See him flickering in and out. Got his track. Now, he is now able to shoot back. I can see his turret rotating. But the 6-pounder shouldn't really be penning the front of the Sherman too much. Certainly not with all the extra track armour that the Firefly gets. Rare that I would say the height has an advantage on this tank, but I can see through this window. No one to shoot through it, unfortunately. There's a Marder going up in the back there, and here comes a Panzer IV. Slightly screwed my shot there. Just blinding him briefly with the 50 cals, but someone else has got him. Let's take out the Marder. It is a good quick reload with a high penetration. The Firefly's a little better than I think most people give it credit for, including myself. It's unfortunately the only Sherman without a stabilizer, and given you have to be precise with your shots when your main opponent's going to be in a up tier, which I find is reasonably often. Your main opponent's going to be things like T-3485s or Tigers or even Panthers. Then not being able to place your shots quickly when they can just hit you anywhere is going to kill you. Now, here's where I have the delight of this wonderful teammate. I am lagging slightly, but given I wasn't trying to move, this is clearly not lag. The bouncing around, that's lag. Tanks falling through the floor. Yeah, you can see my ping is up in the 400 there. But still, lag would not make me get pushed around the corner. Don't you just love teammates like that? They're ever helpful. So, the one thing I did not want to do in this game was push forwards. I'd literally just played another game on this map where I was trying to drive the Churchill 7, and we were even better off on tickets than we are in this one at present, only to have my entire team decide it was already won, drive forwards and die. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to do was push up. Unfortunately, I had no choice thanks to that M10. Still, I'm here now in the ruins. This T-34 is calling for backup. And there we are, there's a Chinu around the corner. So, shoot through the upper plate, get his driver and gunner, finish him off. There was a whirlwind there, so I'm just going to push up, keeping an eye on both sides if I can. It's best not to go down that main road anyway, as there's often snipers across the bridge. Now, still looking for this whirlwind. Ought to be round this corner, but I can't see him. Now, if I meet him frontally, I've probably got enough time for a shot. It can pen it, but it's going to struggle, whereas in the side it will probably annihilate the tank in a matter of seconds. So I need to keep my eye out. He does seem to have gone away though, and there's no sign of him. So it's now just a few minutes of waiting around, letting that ticket bleed get a bit lower, and making sure nothing tries to leave across this bridge. So I'll cut forwards. Last kill now. I've moved up myself, didn't go across the bridge, I went through the water. It's much safer as you're not right in front of the spawn. Just see the whirlwind there moving out the corner. his driver, and then finishing with a second shot. Now, I shot as high up on his engine as I could. The engine itself creates extra spall, and the shell should already be passing through just around the lower half of the turret crew, so maximum potential for damage by shooting there. So, what can I say about the Sherman Firefly? Well, as I mentioned at the start, when I first played this tank last year, I did not like it at all. I think I probably averaged about 1 kill for every 4 deaths. I hated it, and I intended to never look at it again. But in the past few months I gave it another shot, and I've got a bit better at it. I've got to grips with it a bit more, changed the playstyle a bit. I've changed my overall playstyle a bit, and now, while it's still not a favourite tank and still not one I particularly want to go and play for fun, it isn't something I'm terrified of the thought of playing anymore. Armour-wise, well, it's not really going to save you at any point. It's still based off the Sherman hull. It's 50.8mm on the upper plate there. With a slight bit of angling against lower tier tanks, you might bounce something, especially if they hit this extra track armor on the front. Up tiers, you're not really going to be taking any hits that aren't going clean through you. From the side, it's only 38mm, easily cut through even by the average anti-aircraft gun. The same for the rear. Your turret, if they hit this outer area, pretty much everything will go through. Panzer IVs will go through it. In the up tier, the Tigers will definitely go through it. T-34s will go through it as well. The mantlet is tougher though. As you can see, it's 50.8 on the surface, but then you have this plate underneath, which other than the very centre here, so it overlaps the outer edges, that's another 88mm. It adds up quite quickly. Just enough, at least, to resist the Panzer IV most of the time. Not all the time. If they get a high roll on the RNG chance for penetration, I believe all shells have got a 10% variance, then they can go through. So that's enough for the armour. See, unlike most Shermans, it's only 4 crew, and 3 of them are in the turret. Most of your ammo is on the floor there, only a little bit next to the driver. Pretty standard affair for a Sherman, really, on everything else. As far as ammunition you want to bring, you obviously want to be bringing the final shell that you unlock, the Shot Mark 8. It's by far the best one for the 17-pounder. As far as ammo count goes, 46 is the recommended. It will empty your frontal ammo rack there, and while it's only a small difference, it is still a difference, and you are unlikely to fire more ammo than that anyway. Now, as far as matchmaking goes, I've generally found that every game is either a full up tier or a full down tier. There was extremely little in between. Now, for everything except for the full up tier to 5.7, it's going to play very much the same. Pretty much everything you can meet will pen you, and pretty much everything you meet you can just pen frontally. There's a few problem tanks in there. The KVs require a bit more attention to shot placement, but the majority you will cut straight through. The 5.7 game, on the other hand, that's where things start to get a bit nasty. The Tiger and the Panther are both something that requires a lot more precision. The Panther you won't get through the upper plate, for instance. I would ultimately recommend playing the Firefly out on the flanks if you can. It's not particularly fast, so it's not really something that you can speed around and get lots of side shots, but it certainly needs to be kept out of general line of fire if you can. Playing on the flanks or playing as a sniper role, you're certainly not a frontline tank. You don't have great gun depression to make use of a lot of hills, so pick your position wisely, but it is good at sniping. Its penetration holds up even at long range, as we saw with taking out the Jagdpanzer IV. But on that note, I don't think there's much else to say, so I will leave it there. As always, if you have any comments, any feedback, requests, suggestions, anything at all, please drop them in the comments below. You can find me on Twitch a few days a week, all being well. So I hope you've learned something, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Goodbye and good luck with your games.
Fuck you. fucking wanker. We're gonna punch you right in the balls. Fuck you with a fucking anchor. You're